All right, thanks for clicking that link. So I'm excited to be back, and I can't believe it's been nearly 3 years since I ordered our Bronco. What a ride it's been. And in this video, I'm going to cover the things I love about my Bronco, along with the things I hate about my Bronco, along with all the mods and accessories we've done over the last 3 years. So check it out. Now, used Broncos here. Okay, so here I am at the Kindle Bronco showroom, and as you can see, there's quite a plethora of Broncos here to choose from. Things have changed a ton since we bought our Bronco 3 years ago in terms of exclusivity and the ability to get one of these. Now, granted, most of these are four-door wagons. I'm gonna take a little spin through the lot here and we'll see what we got. One of the things I love most about our Bronco, hands down, is the style. Like, especially when this first came out. Like, when we first got our Bronco nearly 3 years ago, nobody had Broncos quite yet, and the dealerships were not full of them. What was happening with the Broncos at that time was definitely a phenomenon. The head turning factor, like, people were literally coming up to me at the gas station to ask me about the Bronco, to ask to look at the Bronco. Like, you would stop in parking lots and people would approach you. Like, people would drive by with their phones taking pictures of the Bronco as you drove by them. It was such a fun phenomenon to be a part of. Now, of course, now that, 3 years later, all that's changed. Broncos are pretty commonplace out there in the world, so that's definitely not the case anymore. However, I still feel like it is just such a cool looking vehicle and just has such a unique Bronco heritage, that just retro modern blend of modern SUV styling. It's so over the top Bronco styling that it's actually kind of worked against it now in terms of real world applications, in terms of things like fuel economy and the aerodynamics of this design. But it's just amazing, like the practicality of it when you're off road, like the visibility from all the glass. So that leads me to the second thing, number two thing I love about our Bronco is its capability. Like, especially once I did the lift and added the 35s. Now I'm up even taller than, say, just a little bit taller than even a factory Sasquatch Bronco. And it's just awesome. It's a really commanding view of the road. It makes you just feel very capable. And off-road, it is very capable. Such an amazing thing. I've made many videos about the Bronco's off-road capabilities. I intentionally drove a non-Sasquatch Bronco when we went to the off-rodeo because I had ordered a non-Squatch. So I wanted to see how something not on 35s did in those elements. And it ran around and did everything that all the Squatch Broncos did, just right in line with the rest of the bunch. It was absolutely amazing. So that brings me to my next subject in terms of capability, is the performance. I love the performance of this Bronco. I've always been a fan of the Focus RS and that 2.3 EcoBoost 4-cylinder. I feel like that motor definitely proved itself as a fun tuner motor in the Focus RS. Like, that was That was the place that really showcased what a 2.3 EcoBoost was capable of. So seeing the 2.3 with a manual transmission in a Bronco was like, wait a minute, this is just a crazy combination. Another big plus with the Black Diamond trim is that it comes with sport mode. So I can drive around in sport mode pretty much all the time, which is really similar to some of the tunes that people do with their Broncos. The 7-speed manual with the 4/7 axle ratio, man, that thing is just a beast off the line. And really in terms of like a stoplight to stoplight pull, it's pretty fun. So the number 4 thing I love about our Bronco most is the removable doors and the removable tops. I did not get my doors off enough this last summer, but I love having the doors off. It's so liberating not having to open and close the door when you get out of your vehicle, just flying in and out, and just the freedom and the open air feeling of it. It's just amazing. My dog loves it. He just thinks it's amazing, just sniffing all the smells as we drive down by, especially as we drive by fast food restaurants. He's just all over the place. It's so much fun. And then of course the Targa tops. A lot of times I'll have the doors on, but the tops are so easy to take off. Like I can literally take those off in 5 minutes, tuck them in the garage and put the windows down, and I get that open air feeling without having the process of taking off the doors. Removing and putting back on the doors, removing them's not so bad. Putting them back on by yourself can be a bit of a challenge. Now I've gotten really good at it, but only because I've had lots of practice. The feeling of driving your 2-door Bronco with no tops, no doors. I did have the clamshell top off one time. Mainly because where do you put that thing? Like storing it. I know a lot of people have hoists and things in their garages. I don't have space like that. But I did have a place to store it for a while. We took it off. It was cool, but the challenge I have with that is because my dog is in the back. So really, I do need the clamshell on there to give him shade, because Boise summers are cooking. All right, so one of the first things that happens when you get a Bronco is you immediately begin to add things, accessorize, customize, and make it your own. So one of the first places I started was my upfitter switches, and I've made many, many videos about my lighting upgrades. I even had an affiliate program going with the Last Fit lighting there for a while. That was really fun. The very first mod I added was the rigid spotlights on my mirrors. Then I began adding my Last Fit accessories. I have a light bar on the front bumper, brackets on the mirrors that allowed me to mount 2 more additional pods. This time I mounted amber fogs. So I have quad pods on the mirrors, a light bar on the front. Now, one of the things I loved about this Black Diamond factory steel bumper was the fact that it did come with the factory installed fog lights. So between the factory fogs, the light bars, and the quad pods, definitely have some really solid front vision. I did add a light bar to the rear bumper, which was super great at ski resorts, especially in dark ski resort parking lots in the dark winter time. Nice little 12-inch floodlight that I had on my back bumper, but I removed it for the hitch that I put on for carrying my mountain bike. Now, I am going to eventually make a mounting bracket that goes in my hitch that I can put my light on, because it's just a quick connect to disconnect that light, because I definitely want to have that light back on for winter when I get back into those parking lots, in the dark winter parking lots, loading and unloading. It's just an amazing cargo light to have in the back. And then to top it all off, I installed the Last Fit Underbody rock lights, which are bi-switchable into a white and amber color modes. I typically run them in the amber mode, like in this video, because, well, I just like the look of it. I typically have my amber fog lights on, so the amber rock lights along with my amber fog lights look pretty cool, I think. So the next thing I did was acquire some 35s, and then did a 2-inch rough country body lift, and I was able to make the 35s fit on my factory Black Diamond wheels. Now, those black wheels were, at the time that I ordered my Black Diamond, an option. They later became standard equipment. Like last year they were standard equipment, but I was able to snug those in. Now, the thing I like about this is my Bronco does not have the pokey look that so often happens when Broncos are lifted and larger wheels and tires are put on. I was able to just really tuck them in. Now, I do get a little bit of rub when I turn all the way on the sway bar occasionally. It does rub a little bit when I'm turned all the way on the sway bar, just a little bit, but not enough to move any paint off or anything, just enough to basically knock the dust off. So not too bad, and something I'm really mindful of. The second accessory I put on was the rear mounted tailgate table. This thing is cool. I really love this tailgate table for YouTubing and adventuring, as far as just it's perfect height for me to like have my camera stuff on, especially like my GoPros and things. Maybe not my main primary camera where I wouldn't want to take a risk of it falling off. It's a little too high up. But for the most part, it's really, really super handy. We've had picnics with the tailgate tables. It's just been an absolute blast. Another must-have Bronco accessory, in my opinion, especially if it's just you and maybe your spouse in the Bronco and people are not in your back seats, is the rear hammock cargo net. Now, it's designed to be a hammock where you can actually lay in the hammock, and I have laid in it as a hammock with the roof off before, and you can check out the video, but one of the comments that came up in the video was the side airbags that were wrapped around that thing. So after reading that comment, I never did that again. But it is handy to keep my hats, my hoodies, my coats, my jackets. My biggest dislike about the swing out rear gate is the fact that if you have coats, hoodies, things like that stacked up in there, when you open that, they fall right out. So this thing's super handy for throwing your hats and hoodies and stuff up over your shoulder. And plus you can just reach up over and grab them too. They're really easy to get back to. If you're climbing out and you just need your hoodie, you can just reach right back there and grab it. And it does keep it off the seats, which is nice because I have my dog in the back. So of course I do have the marine grade vinyl interior, which I have been so happy with. I did cover it up with the dog cover on the back, so I do have a dog cover on the back, a neoprene cover on the center console too, because Bisbee loves to stand on that center console, nuzzle my ear, look around. He's just up and you can just look down on all the cars and the people, and he just loves sightseeing, and he loves to be in the Bronco. I don't know how many other Bronco owners have experienced this with their dogs, but my dog is an absolute Bronco fanatic. Like, he is crazy about being in the Bronco, and just if I put him in the Bronco and go to the store and come back to the house, like, he's perfectly okay with that. Like, that was a fabulous time. Overhead storage rack. Now, this was a much larger modular storage rack I got off Amazon that I had on an adventure van prior to my Transit Connect. It was actually on my Ram van, which you can check out in some of my van videos. So when I got the Bronco, I sectioned it down to a shorter, more compact version so that it's not in the way of when I have the tops off. With this smaller version, I can take my tops off and have that top off Targa open top off, and I do not have my carrier in the way, but yet it'll still fit my totes and everything I need for camping trips. When I need that extra storage, I can pack it up there. Another thing I did with my rack up there is, you may have noticed the license plate is placed up there. Now, when I put my light bar on the front bumper, and nobody was putting front license plates on their Broncos. Like, that was not even a thing. Like, it just wasn't. Like, nobody was doing it. But eventually the police department got like memos going out that nobody's putting front license plates on their Broncos, so let's enforce it. So I had to come up with a solution, and this was my solution because I checked the Idaho law, and nowhere does it state any particular height. That it just has to be a forward-facing plate. So it is a forward-facing plate, conveniently placed up out of the way, where it's not in the way of my light bar, where it's not getting tore up in the car wash. I basically just drilled holes with the license plate frame mount and mounted it to the metal section of my overhead carrier, and I think it looks kind of cool up there. All right, so the next thing I love about this Bronco, and one of the reasons I ordered the black diamond trim, other than being an advanced skier, like really like that trim model, from the moment I heard black diamond, I was like, that's my Bronco. Anyway, the marine grade vinyl interior. Now, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, most likely you've seen some of my surf videos, so you know I'm a river surfer. I'm an absolute river rat, and I live close enough to the river that I don't change at the river. So it's really super cool for me to be able to just climb in the Bronco, dripping wet in my neoprene, not sweat it, come home, change out. If I'm going to the store, I just simply take my beach towel, towel it off, and I'm off and running. I make the most out of those marine grade vinyl interiors. And I tell you, some days in the summer, just right in the summer sun, the Bronco sits just right in the summer sun. I swear, It smells like a surf boat minus the lake. Like lakes have a certain order. Like anybody that's spent time out on lakes and in boats knows there's a scent about that. And the marine grade vinyl, sometimes it gives you just enough to give you that feeling to make you want to go to the lake. Also the drain floors. Literally, I brought this Bronco home and within weeks of owning it, had a garden hose in the interior with the drain flows. Like I remember my neighbors coming out and they saw that I was like, the garden hose is just sitting in the Bronco running as I'm over in my soap bucket doing something different. And they're like, what? Like he's just running water into his new Bronco. I love the washout interior floors. Again, they fit me really well with my lifestyle because I'm dripping wet when I climb in there, and I'll oftentimes have like wet booties and things like that climbing out of the river. Super great too with the snow and ice and the mud and the muck. You can literally just wash that stuff out. That swing out lift gate though, it's just convenient, man. I just love how it swings out. Like when I load the snow go in and out of the Bronco, the thing is so out of the way. I hate a lift gate. And a lift gate, by the way, would be way too high with my lifted Bronco. Like I would need a step ladder to jump up there and close that thing. I'm not tall enough for that. So the swing out gate, it's awesome. Plus, it gets the tailgate table, which I love so much. Is another thing I love about my Bronco is the tailgate table. So you wouldn't have that tailgate table without that swing out lift gate. Now, a lot of people just don't know how that swing out lift gate works, in that it's got the three spots that it just opens and holds to. There's one that just opens to get your stuff. There's one that opens a full 90 so that you can open the rear glass. And then there's one that opens a little bit more further, which you got to be careful of in the parking lots. But you can just literally throw the gate to those spots and it will go and stop in those positions. It's absolutely amazing, an amazing design, and really well engineered by Ford. And my last most favorite thing really comes back to performance and capability again is, and it's really a two-door Bronco thing, no doubt, is my turning radius. When I make a U-turn at a stoplight in this thing, it is absolute comedy. I know people are like, what did I just see? Because I'm literally just like, just turning around like it's meant to do on the trails. And many times I've utilized that on the trails. All right, so now let's talk about what some of you may just been waiting around this whole video just to hear, the things I hate about my Bronco. The number one thing I dislike about my Bronco is the infotainment system. The Sync 3 system in the base model, well, number one, all it can do is try to sell me a subscription to XM radio every time I get in my Bronco. No matter what I had as my previous settings, whether it was a radio, a Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, or an auxiliary input, it automatically goes back to the XM radio every time I turn on my stereo. I have to select a source in which it just defaults to XM radio. It's the most annoying thing. Here's the pitch.
Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $833 per month. Plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Every time you get in the car. And the Apple CarPlay only really works like maybe 70% of the time. So there's like 30% of the time you get in the car, Apple CarPlay doesn't work, and you're locking, unlocking your phone, you're plugging, unplugging your phone. It's the most frustrating thing. And then you're just like, okay, fine, I'll go with Bluetooth or an auxiliary in, and you select a source and you get pitched.
Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $833 per month.
Absolutely maddening, and the thing I like least about my Bronco. Actually debating an aftermarket system just to get rid of this. The number two thing I dislike most about my Bronco, and disliked by so many people with Broncos, and a lot of people that thought they wanted Broncos changed their minds because of this, is the road noise. The road noise in a Bronco, it's just absolutely insane. Like my thinking on this is this though, like, the parts are removable. The doors come off with 2 bolts. In like 10 minutes, I can have both of those doors off. The tops come off in less than 5 minutes. And with a friend and some help, we can even take the back clamshell off. So realistically, what are your expectations for something like that in terms of how quiet those things are going to be when they're all put back on? As a matter of fact, I think the best solution for road noise in a Bronco is to just take all those things off. Like, not have your doors on, not have your tops on, then the road noise is completely justified. Okay, number 3. the rock magnet factor. Like, whether it's the windshield, the brick shape, and how that windshield is just like, I've had cars in the other lanes put rocks into my windshields, like, and then the ability to throw rocks when you're driving down gravel roads without mud flaps, road rash that I've been earning with my adventures with the Bronco. It's just ridiculous. Something you really got to be mindful of too when you've been off-roading and you get back into traffic. Make sure you leave some distance between the cars behind you. So yeah, I've already replaced one shield. I got a chip repair, and I need to chip repair another chip. So yeah, it's, Bronco windshields. My last and final complaint really was what's been making big news here lately. It's in terms of a daily driver. Like, if we were using this as a daily driver, like let me be clear, our Bronco is not our primary vehicle. It's a second vehicle. I had Mustangs before I had my Bronco, and so it's very much like the Mustang, but much more practical and definitely much more capable in terms of road conditions and adventuring and off-roading and those sort of things. Just now, over the last couple years with my business, my van has been my go-to rig. That's what I travel in. That's what we use when we need to make a road trip. Anytime we got to go anywhere that's any distance or burn any gas, we're taking the van. The Bronco is just pretty much a grocery getter now, is totally all it's doing. As a matter of fact, it's coming on 3 years old, and it's just now hit 13,000 miles. So obviously it doesn't do a lot of driving. Obviously it's not a practical vehicle for everyday driving use. I mean, just wearing the tires on the pavement. One of the things that happened with my body lift is I've had some wear issues with my tires. So, even just tire wear in a vehicle like that doesn't make sense. In terms of fuel economy, if you're expecting to get fuel economy out of a box that's designed for off-road with torquey rear axles and 35-inch wheel sets, you're just being absolutely ridiculous. And really, ideally, great fuel economy would be anything in the high teens or better. I consider great fuel economy. Actually, my muscle cars did better than this thing. Checked just today, and my current average in my last few fill-ups running around town is 15.6, and I average 13 to maybe 17 depending on the situations. Now granted, I drive my Bronco very, very spirited. It's fun. I've got a Roush exhaust. I've got a Roush intake. Oh, more mods to mention. The Roush high clearance off-road exhaust, absolutely loves it. Does not drone, makes it sound like a baby Raptor, super cool. And then of course the Roush high capacity air cleaner with the high capacity increased airflow. I didn't really notice any power performance gains with that, but I just love the sound of it, and it's super, super fun, and it definitely has better clearance than the stock muffler. I made a great fun install video that you can check out with the Roush, and I've got some great sound clips too. Make sure you check out my Bronco playlist. Like, we've done lots of great things with the Bronco Club over the last few years. We've been to Moab. We've been Broncoing with other Bronco friends in Moab. This vehicle, hands down, has been the most incredible vehicle I've ever owned in my lifetime. And I've owned a lot of cars, being in the car business for 20 some odd years. A lot of hot rods, a lot of fun cars. But this Bronco, I'd never done off-roading before, so this opened a whole new world to me with that. And the Bronco community has been amazing. It's just been adventure after adventure. Now, where I'm going next with the Bronco, I'm not really sure. Like I say, it's currently just the grocery getting backup vehicle right now, which really isn't making a whole lot of sense in our lives. I'm no longer in the car business, so the Bronco Club isn't really making a whole lot of sense for me either. That made more sense when I was a car guy and I sold Broncos for a living. Running Bronco events and being a major part of the Bronco Club was just a huge part of my life. So I do miss that, and I had hoped to do so much more with it than what the reality of it was. However, the Bronco Club spirit is still alive. People are still getting together and doing meets and having fun meetups with their Broncos. So I feel like I started that snowball here in Idaho, so I'm really proud of that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my other Bronco videos.